Hi everyone, welcome to my next video. Today I'm going to talk about why I think smart people do really stupid things. And I'm going to use myself as an example, which I do very often. And I'm not saying I'm highly intelligent, but I'm somewhat intelligent, I consider myself. And I'm going to start with a memory that I have when I was in high school, because I flunked out of high school. And at the time, I thought I was really dumb. And I couldn't understand why I couldn't remember anything after class to do my homework, and why I froze up every time I was given an exam, and everything that I had learned went completely out my brain. And now I know it's because of anxiety and because I felt incredibly uncomfortable in school. Yet recently, I've had a recent idea, if that makes sense. And I'd like to talk about it because I think a lot of really intelligent people, we question ourselves when we really should not, because there are other things at play. It's a little late and it's getting chilly, and this park will be closed in the wintertime. But I'm going to take you along and show you where we are and talk about why I think smart people do really dumb things. So in high school, I really struggled with remembering after class what had been taught that day. And I can remember sitting in my room trying to do my homework and looking at my notes, which were what I called in my memoir a jumbled mess, because that's what they were. And I so envied my friends who could write down things that really were so well written and so organized, and I couldn't figure out how they did that. But I never asked them because I was embarrassed and I was ashamed that I could not be as organized as they were. And I was just convinced I was just plain dumb. And that's why eventually I just quit going to school altogether. And the only classes I really enjoyed were track and creative writing. And I absolutely loved both of those classes. Well, my father was not pleased that I was flunking out of school, high school. And I believe one of the reasons, looking back, was because he had never graduated from the very same high school in our hometown. And so the pressure was on for me to graduate. However, it was looking pretty bleak because back then you had to have credits. I don't know how it works now. But I was nowhere near having enough credits to graduate. So one day, I was pulled out of class, one of the classes that I went to, might have been creative writing, and I was told to report to the office. And there was a man who took me to a nearby table and told me that I was going to take an IQ test. And right away I thought, my father is behind this somehow. Because everyone thinks I'm stupid. Well, I do too. So what's all this for? So I remember sitting at the table, holding a pencil, and back then you had to fill in a dot next to the answer. It was multiple choice. And I was given so much time to do the test, I don't remember. But I do remember feeling extremely humiliated as that man sat and watched me take the test. And I was the only person in the room. And all I could think about was, if this is a pass-fail, what happens if I fail? What are they going to do with me? Are they going to throw me out of school, which I don't care anyway? But Why am I even doing this? Well, what happened was pretty funny, actually. Because when I got my score, it was extremely high. And that gentleman was shocked, which made me really kind of mad because I thought these questions were so stupid and so easy and so ridiculous. Why would he possibly be shocked that I could complete this test? And I remember going home and sitting at the dinner table, which we did every night, and my father glaring at me, and his words, almost exact, were, "What the hell, Barbara, is wrong with you? Because that test score came back with such a high score. Why the hell are you flunking out of almost every class? What the hell is wrong with you?" And I remember sitting there, wishing I could disappear into a cloud of smoke, so humiliated, so ashamed, thinking maybe I would have been better off if I had flunked that IQ test, because at least I would have had a reason why I couldn't remember anything in school. But no, it was worse, because I did really well on the IQ test. And I felt even more humiliated. And of course my mother tried not to smile, because she always enjoyed when my father was angry at me. And years went by, and now I understand why I did so badly in school. And I also understand why I did so many stupid things in my life. And not so much stupid, but poor choices. And the reason is my emotions completely overwhelmed me to where it was not possible to be logical at all. And I was so anxious in school and so overwhelmed with not fitting in, which I have now learned is a sign of someone very intelligent, because I was bored out of my mind, except for creative writing and track. I questioned what was being taught to me, and I did not want to memorize things in books that did not make sense to me, nor did I believe in. And I can look back now and see how gifted I was, in a sense that there were so many things I could have developed. And I was kept hidden from that, or not hidden, but prevented by being forced to conform to an education structure that was not conducive for me. And I wonder how many other kids felt that way when they were in school, or if they do now. So I can relate to a lot of my bad choices, not because of my intelligence, but because of my emotional state and because of my anxiety, which I had. Trying so hard to figure out what was wrong with me because I didn't fit in, not realizing that maybe I didn't fit in because I wasn't supposed to. And if you ever feel as though you don't fit into a situation or a job or a social setting, you don't have to fit in. You're not supposed to fit in. You're meant for something else. Maybe something greater, maybe something bigger. And maybe your intelligence is telling you that there are other things and greater things for you to be doing. I don't mean this as a way of saying someone is better than another. I don't mean that at all. Just different. just on a different intelligent level. And we all are. We all have our different gifts, our different interests, our different talents. And unfortunately, I didn't learn all this until just recently. And that's one reason I love doing these videos for anyone younger than me. Because if you find yourself feeling extremely out of place, uncomfortable, lost, confused because you don't fit in, please tell yourself that that's a good thing, because you're not supposed to, or maybe you're not supposed to. And what your talents are elsewhere. And that's a wonderful thing. And I understand now how emotional people, such as myself, can cause us to make really bad decisions. And I understand now that when you're in an emotional situation and you feel so confused and so distraught, it makes sense how other people can see your situation more clearly from a distance, because they're not emotionally connected to what you're going through. And they may or may not be helpful. But I have learned that that's the key. To step away from that emotion, or just let yourself pass through it. Let it wash over you. Wait till you calm down before you make a big decision, or even a small one. And I never did that. I reacted on emotion probably 90% of my life. Some decisions were good, some were not so good. And isn't it amazing how we can look back? And I don't know how many of you do that, but I have learned so much about how emotional intelligence is really key. Because learning out of a book, to me, rote learning, is not intelligence. It's memorizing and repeating back like a parrot what you've been told is true. And I think that was one reason I resented school, because I didn't believe a lot of what was taught to me was true. And maybe subconsciously, I didn't want to learn it. And I told my brain, no, don't pay any attention to that. Never mind. It may be utter and purely nonsense. That looks like it came in on a storm. It wasn't here last time. And yes, this is the ocean, if anyone is curious. There are numerous inlets here, and there are just wonderful, wonderful places to go kayaking. But summer is all over, and my kayak is put away. And pretty soon this park will be closed when it starts snowing. So this is one of our last few times out here. And so I've learned a lot about intelligence. What is intelligence? And I think smart people question. And that's another reason why I didn't fit in school. Because I questioned everything. And no one wanted to give me an honest answer. Teachers, authority figures. This is what you must learn. This is the lesson for the day. You will be tested and you will be graded in terms of how much you succeed in this particular class. And if you succeed and earn all your credits, you can wear a black gown with a cap on your head, and you can receive a piece of paper that said you did a very good job. Now, I eventually did get my diploma, and that's another fun story. If any of you are curious, I'll tell you how that happened. And I don't think I have time for it now. Well, actually, I think I will. I've got a few more minutes. Now, I lived in a very small town. My father was very influential. My family, the Martin family, goes back for numerous generations. So back in the 70s, there I was, flunking out of high school, and my father was furious. Now, I was called into the office yet again. Actually, my guidance counselor, I don't know if they still have them or not. And I was told to sit down, and my guidance counselor, who I'd never met before, by the way, which is amazing because you'd think they would have shown an interest in helping me through the years, but no. And he took out, back then we had all our grades on a kind of a giant card system. And of course all my grades were F's, except for creative writing, which was an A, and gym, which was an A. And he put a pencil down, and he looked at the clock, and he said, "Okay, Barbara, here are your grades. I have to leave the office for about 20 minutes. Tell you what, you look over these grades, and you make sure they're right. And I'll be back in 20 minutes. And he left me with that card, and a pencil, and an eraser, and he left. And I'll never forget the sound of that door, because it makes like a click when it's shut. And I could hear the clock ticking, and I thought, is this for real? Is he telling me I can change my grades? And I thought, what if he comes back and I didn't understand him? So I picked up the pencil and I erased my first history grade, which was an F, and I put an A there actually. I put an A. Then I went to my math class, which was also an F consistently, because math confused the holy heck out of me. And I had so much anxiety I couldn't remember anything. And I thought, I can't put A's on everything, so I'll put a B. And I kept looking at the clock thinking, what if he comes back and he sees me doing this and I misunderstood him, right? Well, I kept going. And I'd give myself a C here or an A there. And I got to biology, and I remember how my biology teacher had been very, very mean to me. And I wrote about it in my memoir, something that he had done to me that was extremely hurtful. And I'll never forget the feeling I had when I erased that F and I wrote an A. And I even laughed. I remember that. So I rushed to finish giving myself A's, B's, and C's. And then I sat back and I waited, and I put the pencil down, and my heart was pounding. I thought, oh no, he's going to come back. What's going to happen? Well, he did come back. And he sat down and he looked at the card, and the guy smiled and he said, "Okay, you're all set. Looks like I miscalculated." He said, "You do have enough credits to graduate. Congratulations." And I was shocked. And I remember standing up, leaving his office, walking down the hall thinking, he's going to come after me and say, "Wait a minute, this is a mistake. I think the deer are eating these apples. Look at this. I think they are. Or somebody is." And I got to the front door of the high school, and I walked down those big cement steps, and I thought, oh my God, he did mean it. He just let me cheat so I could graduate. And that's how I graduated high school. My father never said a thing. My mother never said a thing. But I knew that my father had told him to do it. And of course he didn't do me any favors. I didn't get any satisfaction from doing the work on my own. And it made me feel even more humiliated, because my father had done it so he wouldn't be humiliated having a daughter who never graduated just like him. But I never forgot that. And to this day, I have my diploma in that little black kind of a notebook style case. And I remember that day like it was yesterday. And I had been treated like I was too stupid to graduate. But I know now that I was always a very intelligent girl. And my emotional states kept me from using my intelligence. And so for anybody out there who are struggling and thinking you're not all that smart, please know this. I'm sure that you are, and your decision making are probably based more on emotions than being able to think clearly and be logical. Now, had anyone helped me back then and understood my struggles due to a violent home life and my insecurities, my life would have been vastly different. But it is what it is. And I got through it. And I continued on. But smart people can do really, really dumb things. And I would continue to do dumb things throughout my life because of emotion. And now, as an old lady, I can look back and it all makes sense. And that's why I share my stories, because I hope what I've been through can be of value to someone out there who's in an emotional state, trying to think about what to do or a problem to solve. Please don't make it while you're emotional. And please give yourself credit and know that it's your emotion that's keeping you back from thinking clearly. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It's getting very cold out here. It is November 24th. And gosh, we could have a snowstorm anytime now. And I so look forward to it. And I will video it when we get one. And so I hope you're all having a really great day. And as always, please feel free to ask me questions. Leave a comment or request that I speak about anything else that perhaps might be interesting to you or something that I didn't explain. Take care, everyone.